The small blue dot that was Earth had enjoyed 50 years of peace since the last Great War. Humans had spread across their solar system, building homes on Mars, mining stations on the asteroid belt, and research bases on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. It was a golden age of exploration and growth. Captain Olivia Carter stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, looking at the strange ship that had appeared at the edge of the solar system 3 days ago. It was huge, almost 20 times the size of her vessel, with a design unlike anything humans had created. The ship had sharp angles and a dark purple hull that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. "They're hailing us again, Captain," said Communications Officer Dan Bell. His voice was steady, but his hands shook slightly. "Put them through," Olivia said. She straightened her uniform and took a deep breath. The screen lit up, showing the now familiar face of Ambassador Cazette. The alien had gray skin that looked like stone, 4 yellow eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and no visible nose or ears. When he spoke, his thin lips barely moved, but his sharp teeth flashed. "Captain Carter, the patience of the Vraxian Empire grows thin. Your species will submit to our rule or face the consequences. This is your final warning." Olivia maintained her composure, though her heart raced. "Ambassador Cazette, as I've explained in our previous communications, Earth and its colonies are not interested in becoming part of your empire. We offer friendship and trade, not submission." The alien's upper eyes narrowed. "Friendship is not our way. For 10,000 years, the Vraxian Empire has expanded by conquest. You will be no different." The screen went dark before Olivia could respond. "They've cut the transmission," Dan said. Lieutenant Greg Winters at Tactical shook his head. "That went well." Olivia turned to her first officer. "Susan, get me Earth Command. They need to know the negotiations have failed." 20 minutes later, screens across Earth, Mars, and every human settlement suddenly activated, showing an older Vraxian, with elaborate markings on his face and a crown-like structure on his head. "People of Earth, I am King Drexel of the Vraxian Empire. Your representatives have rejected our generous offer of inclusion in our glorious realm. This is unacceptable. You have 24 Earth hours to surrender your planets and resources to us. If you do not comply, we will take them by force. Your species will serve us one way or another." The message played on repeat for an hour before Earth's tech experts could override it. In the Pentagon, Defense Secretary Richard Garrison met with Joint Chiefs and the President. Maps and tactical displays covered the walls, showing the positions of Earth's defensive fleet. "We can't surrender," Garrison said. "Based on the communications Captain Carter shared, these Vraxians enslaved the species they conquer. Can we fight them?" the President asked. Admiral Frank Peters pointed to the display. "Our fleet is spread thin protecting the colonies. The Vraxian ships we've detected so far outnumber us 5-1. And their technology appears more advanced. So we're looking at a war we can't win," the President said quietly. "We don't know that yet," Garrison replied. "Humanity has faced long odds before." The decision to stand and fight was unanimous. Emergency broadcasts went out to all colonies, ordering defensive positions and civilian evacuations from frontier outposts. But the Vraxians didn't wait the promised 24 hours. Just 6 hours after King Drexel's ultimatum, 3 massive Vraxian warships appeared in orbit around Mars. Without warning, they fired energy weapons that cut through the colony's defensive shields like they weren't there. The Mars Colonial hub, home to 30,000 civilians, was vaporized in seconds. When the news reached Earth, people gathered in streets and homes, watching the footage in horror. The war had begun with a massacre, and humanity was on the defensive. On the UES Horizon, Captain Carter received new orders: fall back to Earth to help organize the defense of humanity's homeworld. As her ship turned toward home, she looked once more at the long-range scans showing more Vraxian ships entering the solar system. The fight for survival had begun. 6 months passed. 6 months of running and hiding. 6 months of watching human colonies fall one by one. The war against the Vraxians was not going well. Marine Commander Samuel Green crouched behind a broken wall on Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon. Once this had been a thriving research base. Now it was a battlefield. His breath made small clouds in the thin atmosphere inside his helmet. "How many?" he asked the soldier beside him. Private Kelly Warren peered through a crack with her scope. "I count 8 of them coming this way, big ones with the heavy weapons." Samuel nodded. 8 Vraxian soldiers against his team of 5 humans. Bad odds, but they'd faced worse. Remember, aim for the neck joints in their armor. That's their weak spot. The Vraxians moved with precision through the ruins. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, covered in gray armor that matched their skin. Each carried a weapon that fired bolts of energy that could melt through human armor in seconds. Samuel gave the signal, and his team opened fire from different positions. 2 Vraxians fell immediately, purple blood freezing in the cold as it sprayed from their neck wounds. The others took cover and returned fire, forcing the humans to duck down. "We can't stay here," Samuel said into his comm. "Mitch, Joe, flank, left. Kelly, with me. Lisa, provide cover fire on my mark." When Samuel called the mark, Lisa popped up and fired rapidly, drawing the aliens' attention. Samuel and Kelly sprinted to new positions while Mitch and Joe did the same on the left. Caught in crossfire, 3 more Vraxians fell. The last 3 retreated, calling for reinforcements. "Move out," Samuel ordered. "We've got 20 minutes before this place is swarming with them." They retreated to their hidden base, an old maintenance tunnel deep under Europa's surface. There, 50 other soldiers and about 200 civilians waited. This was all that remained of Europa Colony's 5,000 residents. Back on Earth, Dr. Catherine Hayes stared at tissue samples through a microscope. She had been studying Vraxian biology for months. The aliens were surprisingly similar to humans in some ways, but with key differences. "Look at this," she said to her assistant Jeff Daniels. "Their respiratory system uses a different chemical process than ours. They don't process oxygen the same way." Jeff leaned in to look. "Could that be useful?" Catherine nodded slowly. "Maybe. If we could develop something that interrupts their breathing without affecting humans." Their lab was in a bunker under what had once been Denver. Above them, the city lay in ruins after a Vraxian bombing raid 2 months earlier. All across Earth, people lived underground or in fortified shelters. The surface wasn't safe anymore. In orbit around Earth, Admiral Paul Dixon watched the battle unfold on his view screen. His fleet of 30 ships was all that stood between Earth and the Vraxian armada. So far they had managed to hold the line, but at a terrible cost. For every Vraxian ship they destroyed, they lost 3 of their own. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the Rocky Mountain Science Facility." A moment later, the face of Eli Franklin appeared on screen. The scientist looked tired but excited. "Admiral, we've made a breakthrough. We've partially reversed engineered their shield technology." "What does that mean for us?" Paul asked. "It means we might be able to modify our weapons to penetrate their shields," Eli explained. "We need another week to finish the prototype, but this could change everything." For the first time in months, Paul felt a glimmer of hope. "Do it as fast as you can, Doctor. We're losing this war." As their call ended, alarms blared across the bridge. "Vraxian ships incoming," the tactical officer shouted. "At least 50 of them." Paul straightened his uniform. "Battle stations, all ships, defensive formation Omega. Today we hold the line. For Earth." The human fleet moved into position as the much larger Vraxian force approached. Another battle was about to begin, and humanity couldn't afford to lose this one. 1 year into the war, things started to change. Humans were still losing, but they were losing more slowly. And in some places, they were starting to win. Dr. Catherine Hayes stood in a lab on the secret base under the Rocky Mountains. She held up a small vial of blue liquid. "This is it. Our bioweapon is ready." The generals and scientists around her looked at the vial with hope and concern. One of them, General Roy Bennett, spoke up. "And you're sure it only affects Vraxians?" Catherine nodded. "We've tested it thoroughly. It attacks their unique respiratory system. When they breathe it in, it blocks their ability to process the chemicals they need from the air. They suffocate within minutes. But humans and Earth animals are completely unaffected. How do we deploy it? Asked another general. That's the hard part, Catherine admitted. We need to release it directly into their ships or bases. It doesn't spread easily on its own. In another section of the base, Eli Franklin and Maria Rodriguez had finally cracked the secret of Vraxian shield technology. They built a device that could create a narrow gap in the alien shields for a split second, just long enough for a missile or laser to pass through. The trick is timing, Eli explained to Admiral Dixon over a secure video call. You'll need to fire precisely when the shield gap appears. My pilots are the best, Paul replied. They can handle precise timing. 2 days later, Captain Olivia Carter took command of the UES Defiant, Earth's newest and most advanced warship. It carried both the shieldbreaker technology and missiles loaded with Dr. Hayes's bioweapon. Our mission is to hit the Vraxian fleet stationed near Titan, Olivia told her crew. This is a test of our new weapons and our first chance to strike back in a meaningful way. Her first officer, Susan Lee, looked worried. The odds are still against us, even with the new tech. The odds have been against us since day one, Olivia said with a small smile. That hasn't stopped us yet. The UES Defiant and 2 escort ships jumped to Saturn's system and immediately faced 6 Vraxian warships. The battle began with the Vraxians firing confidently, expecting another easy victory. They were wrong. The Defiant's new weapons cut through their shields. The bioweapon missiles released their payload inside the Vraxian ships. Within an hour, 4 enemy vessels were floating dead in space, their crews unable to breathe. The other 2 retreated. News of the victory spread quickly through human forces. For the first time, they had won a significant battle. Far away in the Vraxian royal palace, King Drexel smashed a control panel in anger. How did they defeat our ships? These humans were supposed to be primitive. His military advisor, General Krazel, bowed low. They are adapting to our technology faster than expected, Your Highness, and they fight differently than other species we have conquered. Differently how? Demanded the king. They do not follow predictable patterns. They use deception and surprise. They keep fighting even when defeat seems certain. The king growled. Double our forces in their system. Crush them completely. His son, Prince Zexel, spoke up cautiously. Perhaps we should consider a diplomatic approach. These humans have shown remarkable silence, roared the king. We do not negotiate with lesser beings. We conquer them. Back on Europa, Commander Samuel Green and his forces were no longer just hiding. They began attacking Vraxian outposts, using their knowledge of the moon's tunnels and crevices to strike and disappear before the aliens could respond. After one successful raid, Samuel's team captured Vraxian weapons and communications equipment. Send these back to Earth, he told Kelly. Our scientists can learn from them. The tide hadn't fully turned yet, but for the first time since the war began, humans were starting to believe they might survive, and some even dared to think they might win. 18 months into the war, humans no longer just defended, they attacked. Small victories grew into larger ones. The Vraxians, who had expected an easy conquest, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to give up and kept finding new ways to fight. Admiral Paul Dixon stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the wreckage of a Vraxian supply depot near Neptune. His fleet had just destroyed it after a short, fierce battle. Search the debris, he ordered. I want any data storage devices recovered. Hours later, his intelligence officer brought him a small purple cube. We think this is their version of a computer, sir. It was in a protected case that survived the explosion. Paul took the cube carefully. Get this to Earth immediately. If we can access their data, we might find the location of their homeworld. On Earth, humans had moved many of their factories underground. They built new weapons and ships day and night. The lessons they learned from each battle made their technology better and better. In a Vraxian command ship, General Krazel spoke with his officers. These humans are not like other species we have conquered. They adapt too quickly. One officer showed images of a recent battle. They now copy our tactics but add their own unexpected changes, and they keep fighting even when victory seems impossible. They should have surrendered long ago, said another officer. It would have been easier for them. Krauzel shook his head. They would rather die than surrender. It makes no sense. Dr. Catherine Hayes made another discovery in her lab. She had been studying the captured Vraxians who had died from her bioweapon. Look at their brain structure, she told her team. It's different from anything we've seen before. She pointed to scans of the alien brains. See these connections? I think the Vraxians share some kind of mental link with each other. And look, the royal family members we've examined have even more complex brain structures. Jeff looked closely at the images. Are you saying they have a hive mind? Not exactly, Catherine said, but something similar. And I think King Drexel serves as a central node in their mental network. That's why he's so important to them. This information went straight to Defense Secretary Garrison, who shared it with military leaders. If we can capture or kill their king, we might disrupt their entire command structure, he said. Meanwhile, a special forces team led by Commander Lisa Dawson prepared for a dangerous mission. They had modified their armor to look like Vraxian. Equipment from a distance. We'll board their command ship during the confusion of battle, Lisa told her team of 6. Our goal is their computer core. We get in, copy their data, plant explosives, and get out. The mission was risky, but Lisa's team succeeded. They slipped aboard a Vraxian command ship during a battle near Jupiter, reached the computer core, and downloaded massive amounts of data. As they escaped, explosions rocked the ship behind them. When they returned to Earth, the information they stole proved invaluable. It contained details of Vraxian fleet movements, supply lines, and communication codes. This is exactly what we needed, Admiral Dixon said as he studied the information. Now we can hit them where it hurts most. On the Vraxian homeworld, King Drexel received more reports of defeats. His generals looked nervous as they delivered the news. How is this possible? The king shouted. They were primitives when we found them. They learn quickly, Your Highness, said one general, and they fight with unusual determination. The king stood from his throne. I will not accept failure. Double our forces in their system. Send our royal fleet. I want Earth destroyed completely. The generals bowed and left quickly, but none of them felt confident anymore. The easy war they had expected had turned into something much more dangerous. The humans were proving to be the most difficult enemy the Vraxian Empire had ever faced. 2 years into the war, cracks began to show in the Vraxian Empire. Not all Vraxians agreed with their king's obsession with crushing humanity. Some saw the cost in ships and lives and wondered if it was worth it. Prince Zexel stood before his father's throne on their homeworld. The king sat with his forearms gripping the sides of his seat, his yellow eyes narrow with anger. Father, I ask again that we consider peace talks with the humans, the prince said. This war drains our resources. We have lost over 200 ships. King Drexel leaned forward. Peace, with animals who refuse to accept their place? Never. They are not animals, Zexel argued. They have proven themselves clever and brave. They would make better allies than slaves. The king stood suddenly. Enough. Your sympathy for these creatures borders on treason. Other members of the royal court watched nervously. Some agreed with the prince but were afraid to say so. The king's anger was dangerous. Later that day, King Drexel called his most loyal generals to the throne room. 3 Vraxian nobles who had spoken in favor of peace were brought in chains. Let this be a lesson, the king announced. There will be no peace with humans. There will be only victory or death. He personally executed all 3 nobles while recording the event. The recording was sent to every Vraxian ship and colony. The video reached human intelligence officers. They saw an opportunity. Jack Murphy, a senior intelligence officer, contacted Admiral Dixon. The Vraxians are divided, Jack explained. The king is losing support. Some of them want peace. Paul nodded thoughtfully. Can we contact these peace supporters? We're working on it, Jack said. We've intercepted communications from a group calling themselves the New Path. They oppose the King's war policy. While this was happening, Captain Olivia Carter and the UES Defiant led an attack on a Vraxian military base on Pluto. The once small human fleet had grown larger and more effective. They destroyed the base and 3 Vraxian ships before jumping away. On the Vraxian homeworld, Prince Zexel met secretly with 5 other nobles. My father has lost his way, he told them. This war serves no purpose except to satisfy his pride. An older noble named Vaxel spoke carefully. What you suggest is dangerous, my prince, but many agree with you in private. How many would support a call for peace? Zexel asked. Perhaps 1/3 of the noble houses, Vaxel replied. More if we can show them a path forward that saves face for our empire. 2 days later, human intelligence received an encrypted message. From within Vraxian space, Jack Murphy brought it directly to Defense Secretary Garrison. It's from the prince himself, Jack said excitedly. He wants to open secret peace talks. Garrison read the message carefully. This could be a trap. Possibly, Jack admitted. But our psychologists have analyzed the King's recent broadcasts. They think he's becoming unstable. This division in their leadership is real. Garrison made his decision. Respond cautiously. Say we're willing to talk but need proof of their sincerity. Meanwhile, King Drexel announced he would personally lead the royal fleet to Earth. I will end this war myself, he declared. Earth will burn, and the humans will kneel before me or die. When this news reached Earth, Admiral Dixon called an emergency meeting with Captain Carter and other fleet commanders. This is both a danger and an opportunity, Paul told them. The King is coming to us. If we can defeat his royal fleet, it might end the war. Olivia studied the intelligence reports. Better yet, what if we could capture him? The room fell silent as they considered this idea. Then Paul slowly smiled. A bold idea, Captain. Very bold. Let's see if we can make it work. As the Vraxian royal fleet prepared for their jump to the Sol system, humanity prepared for what might be the final battle of the war. And on both sides, secret communications continued between those who sought peace. The plan to capture King Drexel was named Operation Kingfall. Admiral Dixon and General Allen West worked day and night to prepare for it. They knew they would only get one chance. The key is to take him alive, Allen explained to the team leaders. A dead king becomes a martyr. A captured king shows our strength. Commander Lisa Dawson would lead the actual capture mission. Her Special Forces team had been training in a mock-up of a Vraxian royal vessel, learning every corridor and door. We know the king's ship from the data we stole, Lisa told her team. We know where his personal quarters are located. The hard part will be getting aboard. Jack Murphy had another piece of good news. Prince Zexel has provided us with the royal fleet's jump coordinates and timing. He can't openly help us more than that without risking discovery. The human fleet gathered near Jupiter, hiding in the gas giant's massive shadow. They waited as sensors detected the Vraxian royal fleet's arrival at the edge of the solar system. On the bridge of the UES Defiant, Captain Olivia Carter addressed her crew. Today we do something no one thought possible 2 years ago. We take the fight directly to the enemy's leader. The plan was complex but clear. Most of the human fleet would engage the Vraxian ships in a direct battle. Meanwhile, a small strike team led by the Defiant would jump behind enemy lines using coordinates provided by Vraxian defectors. We jump in 5 minutes, Olivia announced. Battle stations. The main human fleet moved into position and began firing as soon as the Vraxian ships came into range. The battle was fierce immediately, with energy weapons flashing between the opposing forces. During the chaos, the Defiant and 3 smaller ships activated their jump drives. For a moment, everything blurred. Then they reappeared directly behind the Vraxian fleet near the King's flagship. We're in position, Olivia reported. Beginning Phase 2. The Defiant and its escorts attacked the rear of the Vraxian formation, causing confusion. The King's guards turned their attention to this unexpected threat. Commander Dawson, you have a go, Olivia said into her comm. Lisa and her team of 12 Special Forces soldiers launched from the Defiant in a small, stealthy craft. They approached the King's flagship, using the battle as cover. We've reached the outer hull, Lisa reported, beginning entry procedure. Using tools designed from stolen Vraxian technology, they cut through the hull at a weak point. Once inside, they moved quickly through the corridors, facing surprisingly little resistance. Most of the crew is occupied with the battle, Lisa told her team. Stay alert anyway. They reached a large door marked with royal symbols. This is it, the King's personal chamber. Lisa's team placed breaching charges on the door. 3, 2, 1, breach. The door blew inward. The team rushed through, weapons ready. Inside, they found King Drexel and 4 royal guards. The guards moved to protect their king, firing energy weapons. 2 of Lisa's team fell immediately. Take the guards down, Lisa ordered. Non-lethal for the king. The fight was brutal and close. The guards fought to the death, but Lisa's team had trained for this moment. One by one, the guards fell. King Drexel himself fought with surprising strength. He grabbed one soldier and threw him across the room. Another he struck with a ceremonial weapon, breaking through their armor. Lisa fired a specialized dart into the king's neck. It contained a powerful sedative designed specifically for Vraxian biology. The king roared in anger and charged toward her. Second dose, Lisa shouted, firing again. The king stumbled, then fell to his knees. His yellow eyes glared with hatred as the sedative took effect. You will die. For this? He growled, before collapsing. Lisa checked the vitals monitor on her wrist. Target is secured, alive but unconscious. Excellent work, came Admiral Dixon's voice over the comm. Get him to the extraction point. The Defiant will cover you. As Lisa's team secured the unconscious king for transport, explosions rocked the flagship. The battle outside was turning in humanity's favor. Let's move, Lisa ordered. Our ride home won't wait forever. News of King Drexel's capture spread quickly across human space. When the UES Defiant returned to Earth with its royal prisoner, crowds gathered outside the secure military base in Nevada, where the king was taken. Defense Secretary Garrison met with world leaders to decide what to do next. They gathered in an underground conference room away from possible Vraxian attacks. The war isn't over yet, Garrison warned. The Vraxian fleet is in disarray, but they're still dangerous. What about the king? Asked the president. What do we do with him? We have 3 options, Garrison said. First, we could use him to force a surrender. Second, we could keep him secretly imprisoned as leverage. Or third, we could make a public example of him. Commander Samuel Green, recently returned from Europa, spoke up. I've fought these aliens for 2 years. They respect only strength and fear, only humiliation. We should show them their king is defeated. Let them see what happens when you attack Earth. Others in the room looked uncomfortable. Showing him off like a trophy seems beneath us, said one minister. They killed millions of our people, Samuel replied. They showed us no mercy. When they arrived, they thought we were weak. They need to see they were wrong. After hours of debate, the United Council voted. They would parade the captured king through major cities on Earth, showing the Vraxians and any other alien species watching that humanity was not to be underestimated. 3 days later, King Drexel was loaded into a special transparent container vehicle. It was designed to keep him alive while allowing everyone to see him clearly. The vehicle was surrounded by armed guards and military vehicles. The parade began in New York City, where crowds lined the streets. Some people cheered, others were silent, watching the fallen alien king with serious faces. The king stood tall in his container, his yellow eyes filled with hatred as he looked at the humans. Next came London, then Beijing, Moscow, and other major cities. In each place, cameras broadcast the image of the captive king across Earth and into space, where Vraxian ships could receive the signal. In Tokyo, a reporter asked Captain Olivia Carter what she thought of the parade. She looked at the king's container before answering. 2 years ago, he told us to surrender or die, she said. He thought we were weak. He was wrong. On the Vraxian homeworld, Prince Zexel watched the broadcasts with mixed feelings. He was glad the war might end soon, but seeing his father displayed like a captured animal was difficult. "What will you do now?" asked Vaxel, his advisor. "I will take the throne," Zexel replied, "and I will end this pointless war." Not all Vraxians agreed. Many military leaders wanted to keep fighting, to rescue their king. But reports from Earth showed how strong the humans had become. And with each day, more Vraxian ships and soldiers sided with Prince Zexel. Back on Earth, Catherine Hayes watched the parade from her lab. "Do you think this is right?" she asked Jeff. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I know it's working. Look at the latest intelligence reports. The Vraxian fleet is pulling back." In Washington, D.C., the final parade took place. Thousands of people lined the streets, watching as the captured king passed by. Some held pictures of loved ones who had died in the war. As King Drexel's container passed the main viewing stand, he locked eyes with Defense Secretary Garrison. Even in defeat, the king's gaze was proud and hateful. Garrison's expression remained neutral, but inside he felt both satisfaction and concern. They had won a major victory, but what would the consequences be? Humiliating the king might end this war, but would it start another? That night, as the king was taken to his permanent prison in a secure facility in the Himalayas, news arrived from Vraxian space. Prince Zexel had declared himself the new ruler, and his first act was to call for peace talks with Earth. 6 months after King Drexel's capture, peace was officially declared between Earth and the Vraxian Empire. The treaty signing took place on a neutral space station orbiting Mars. Captain Olivia Carter and Admiral Paul Dixon represented Earth at the peace talks. Prince Zexel, now calling himself Emperor Zexel, came with his advisors to sign the treaty. "We recognize the sovereignty of Earth and all human colonies," the new emperor said during the ceremony, "and we hope for a future of cooperation rather than conflict." Admiral Dixon signed the document with a steady hand. "Humanity accepts this peace. We have no desire for further war, but we will always defend ourselves if threatened." The treaty included trade agreements, technology exchanges, and clear borders between human and Vraxian space. It was more favorable to Earth than anyone would have imagined possible when the war began. After the ceremony, Emperor Zexel spoke privately with Olivia. "What will happen to my father?" he asked. "He will remain in custody on Earth," she replied. "In a secure facility where he can be studied and monitored," the emperor nodded slowly. "He would rather die than live as a prisoner." "Perhaps," Olivia said, "but his life serves as a reminder of what happens when you underestimate humanity." Back on Earth, the rebuilding had already begun. Cities destroyed in the war were being reconstructed. New ships were being built, stronger than before and incorporating Vraxian technology. Dr. Catherine Hayes continued her research in the Himalayan facility where King Drexel was kept. She studied the connection between the king and other Vraxians, trying to understand their mental link. "His brain activity changes when other Vraxians are nearby," she told her team. "Even in defeat, he's still connected to his people." Jeff looked through the observation window at the former king who sat motionless in his cell. "Do you think he can still influence them?" Catherine shook her head. "Not anymore. Emperor Zexel has taken his place in their mental network. But we keep studying to be sure." Commander Samuel Green, now promoted to general, visited the facility 1 week later. He stood outside the king's cell, looking at the alien who had caused so much death and destruction. The king looked back at him with his 4 yellow eyes. "You think you have won, human," Drexel said in his deep, rumbling voice. "We have won," Samuel replied simply. The king moved closer to the transparent wall. "You made a mistake parading me through your cities. You showed the galaxy your cruelty." "We showed the galaxy that humanity cannot be conquered," Samuel corrected him. The king made a sound that might have been laughter. "You showed that you are dangerous, and now others are watching, others far more powerful than my people." Samuel felt a chill at these words but didn't show it. "Let them watch. Let them learn from your mistake." As Samuel left the facility, he looked up at the night sky. The stars seemed different now. Humanity had faced its first alien threat and survived. They had advanced decades in technology and united as never before. In orbit around Earth, new defense platforms were being built. On Mars and other colonies, new cities grew with stronger defenses. Humanity was expanding again, but more cautiously than before. Admiral Dixon summarized the feeling in his address to the graduating class of the Space Academy. We are not alone in this universe. We know that now. Some of our neighbors may be friends, like the new Vraxian Empire. Others may be enemies. But all of them need to understand one simple truth. Humanity will never surrender, never submit, and never stop fighting for our right to exist. As his words were broadcast across human space, ships were already venturing farther into the galaxy than ever before. Humanity was moving forward, stronger for its victory, wiser for its losses, and ready for whatever waited among the stars.